Hey there, team, and welcome back to the Coffee Roasters Wrap. In this special guest episode, we are going to be having the great debate. And we've been working on this one for a little while, guys, about the pet peeves, the relationship killers, and the biggest frustrations for both of these two stakeholders in the coffee supply chain. So, in today's session, I will be taking the place of coffee roasters, representing some of the top 5 most frustrating and relationship killers that traders or importers do that we cannot stand as roasters. And I do have an amazing guest who will be playing the side for our traders and importers today, who will be taking this perspective of all the things that we as coffee roasters do that are frustrating, that are just relationship killers and make it really hard for them to do their jobs as well. So we're going to air some grievances. We're going to try and really hit these straight on the head as best we can. But let's welcome our guest today. We have Rehan Isat from ICT. Thanks for joining us, Rehan.
I'm so excited to be here. We're going to talk about my favorite topic, which is coffee. So all is good in the world.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the challenge of actually wanting to talk about what annoys you about roasters, and holding that line for traders and importers, mate. That's going to be a fun one, I think.
I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it.
Yeah.
There's so many things on both sides, and I think if I think it's a bit of a warning to everyone. Some of these might be very real to you, and I hope this stimulates more discussion between coffee roasters and coffee traders, because at the end of the day, we're in it together. We are a team, and we should work as a team. So that's what I hope that we get by the end of this.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think that's a great kind of setting for the stage for everyone today. Is we're going to go through these, and there's going to be some hard truths. And if you're a trader or if you're a roaster and you have an emotional response straight away to one of these topics, maybe we've hit a nerve. Maybe that might be something we can learn. But
Yeah.
the biggest goal for this is that we create conversations and we create more self-awareness for both parties. You might have been trading for years. You might have been working with roasters for years. You might have been buying green coffee for years. We can always learn and understand how we could improve communication, how we can improve the way we're working to get a better result for us and to actually work better with our partners. So that's the goals, but we'll see how we go. It
Yeah,
might
and
end up with you and me getting in a
if we
fight.
if we missed something by the end of this episode, let us know, and maybe we can touch on it on another episode.
100%. I think there'll be a round two. There'll be a round two. People will want to have more because I think
The follow
5
up,
is a.
yeah.
I don't know about you, but I struggled to get my list down to 5. I've been kind of talking to a bunch of roasters, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll kind of pull that in there, but we'll see. So format is we're going to go 1 for 1. So I'm going to list one of a pet peeve of roasters that trade for roasters that traders do, and then maybe Rehan will discuss it, talk to that point, give some perspectives on your side about that,
And then
and then we'll
return
go.
fire.
Yeah. Then you can return fire. So we've all been watching. I don't know about everyone, but this might bring up my side of it. But I'm a little bit of a politics nerd. So we've been watching debates, the Australian election that's going on at the moment. This is the coffee debate between traders and roasters, but it's none of that malarkey about positioning and all this political jargon. It is what are you doing that annoys me in my role. And let's jump in and get started.
Okay,
Rayhan,
hit me. Hit
do you
me.
want to go first? You want me to go first?
No, you go first. You go first.
Oh, so there is 5. I've narrowed it down to 5. I I'm gonna say they're not in any order. So it's not like getting more intense, but the conversation might get a little bit more heated as we go. So let's see how we start to go first. Let me go with okay, I'm gonna go with cup score inflation and misleading descriptions. So for me, and like so my background as a roaster consultant and green buyer, working with so many different roasters, and they're like, oh, the trader sent me this, and I've got this one's an 86, well, this one's an 86.25, and this one has all these crazy things, and then you get the cups and you're like, hang on, this is miles off from what we're talking about. So for me, it is one of the biggest pet peeves is getting cup score inflation and misleading communication, but also combining that with giving me products that aren't available. So giving me coffees and then they're not even available. So for me, that's a real big pet peeve, wasting my time as a roaster while I'm like assessing coffees with products that aren't what they say they are or don't actually have meet the requirements that we need.
Mhm. Mhm.
Any thoughts on that, mate?
Okay, so you've hit two accusations here, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
try and recover with both of them. So the first one is cup score inflation, and the second one
Second one
um
availability. So like
was around
presenting things
availability.
that,
Like you
yeah,
like something,
presenting
but it's
things
not
that,
no longer available. Yeah.
yeah, that aren't
Uh,
available or that don't really meet the requirements that we've asked for. So like I'm looking for a Brazil blender, and then I get like these samples that don't, they're just not really there.
yeah.
Um,
Okay. My emotional reaction, if I'm a copy trader, which I am, my emotional reaction to that first is this is what I wish I could say, but I'm not gonna say it. Is is how do you expect me to get it right every single time? What is the level of success that we need here in order to form some sort of relationship? Are you expecting me to get it right 100% of the time? Realistically, that's not going to be possible. Or something that I've
for sure.
cupped, which I thought was great, I've sent it to you. I'm not trying to be dishonest here. Are you accusing me of being dishonest,
Mm.
of trying to offload crap on you? That's the emotional reaction.
No, and I love it because I think that's honest. Because I would say mine is an emotional reaction as well. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I'm gonna let you go because I've got more rebuttals, but I'll let you go for
Yeah.
yours.
So, look, the short answer is we need to get calibrated. Obviously, we're not calibrated on what you expect to get and what I'm sending you. There's a
Yeah,
mismatch there happening. So we need to figure that out. Now, when you place a buying condition on that building of trust, it makes it super difficult because I have to get this right. Otherwise, I'm not selling you coffee.
yeah,
So, that's the position that you put me in by saying that straight away.
yeah,
So yeah, I feel like we almost both need to come to the table and invest some time with no buying arrangements in place to develop a calibration here. I'm going to send you a bunch of coffees that I think are 82s, 83s, 84s,
mm,
85s. You're going to give me your feedback and I'm going to understand where you're at. None of those coffees are on the table for you to buy. We just
yeah,
need to understand each other's language a bit better. So, that's something that I feel like we as traders can all do a lot better. But
yeah.
there's a time investment on both our parts. Are you willing to do that? I certainly am, but are you willing to invest that time as well in the relationship?
I think that's the biggest challenge. So from my experience, I think what I find where that is a frustration from a roaster's perspective is when, and I do see a lot of roasters potentially playing a part in this. We both have a part in it where we
Yeah.
expect this you to hit a bullseye from day one. And
Yeah.
we don't actually understand that there is that calibration in time.
Hmm.
But sometimes the calibration from some experience, and this is where you find out which
Yeah.
of the traders or which of the partners and importers that actually align with you as a roaster over time,
Yeah.
sometimes you just won't align. Sometimes you will find it really hard to calibrate with certain suppliers.
Mm.
And you need to know when to stop maybe asking for stuff from that supplier. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
sometimes that has to happen as a roaster because we're never going to calibrate because we're just
Mm.
we've spent time. We've had multiple rounds
Yeah.
of samples. We've had multiple investment of time and it's not landing. That
Yeah.
is where the frustration really emotionally hits me where I'm like, okay, we're not getting anywhere closer to where we need to be and we have tasted multiple rounds. We have tried to communicate
Yeah.
more particular needs. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's one of those things. We're giving you a small target to hit, but at the end of the day, the
Mm.
time allowances that we have as roasters to make these decisions has traditionally been super short, super small, and potentially it's a combination of us having to invest a bit more time there, but it's also
Yeah.
the sense that we need to know when we're trying to
Mm.
shoehorn a calibration and a relationship with someone that actually just maybe they don't have the offering that we need. Maybe they don't have the service type that we need
Mhm.
to get the right product in the time frame that we have. So that's where I would land on that one.
Yeah. The final point that I'd like to specify on that is often that discussion is governed by timing.
Mm,
So you might come to me and say, "Hey, I really need a Brazil. It needs to be 85 points. It needs to have these features to it, and I need it next week."
yeah.
So the next week part puts me under a lot of pressure that I've got to find something in my portfolio that even closely resembles what you're looking for. I don't
Yeah.
have time to go to Origin and source that for you in 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month. The turnaround time for doing that, there's a higher chance of success. I'll find what you want, but that's a discussion for, September onwards.
Timeline. Yeah.
That's not a discussion for a copy that you need this week.
Yeah.
So, I think I think we haven't said it enough as traders, but there's an expectation that you understand that time pressure leads to less
Quality
accuracy on
variance.
your requirement.
Yeah.
So
Bigger field
I
of
think we take it
acceptance
for
in that
granted that you
timeline.
understand that, but maybe you don't understand that well enough.
I think it's one of those things where I think because we've had an oversupply, so because and this is where I don't want to blame traders, but you're playing the role today, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it back at you. We have had an oversupply of coffee in Australia at extremely high quality, so we have been trained as roasters to not have to know when to buy is the right time. The benefit of me 5 years ago buying at the perfect time for Brazil or buying 6 months later was not really that big, and the pain and the quality of difference and the effect wasn't that high. So we've been trained by a market that's oversupplied us to go,
Yeah.
you just tell us what you need when you need it, we'll give it to you. So
Yeah.
where I think there's a retraining happening now because markets have changed, everything's changed. No one decided that that was how we wanted to do it. We were just dealing with the nature of having great quality product and lots of it at affordable rates. That was not as risky. We weren't in a backward kind of market. You could kind of sit on these coffees and they would become, they were quite secure at that time. So I think it's a combination. Like we have been trained as roasters to
Yeah.
expect you guys to be able to hit small targets really quickly because you have been able to do that traditionally. Where now the limitations of the market, it's maybe more challenging for you to do that in such short time frames. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, 100% fair. I mean, that's pretty much what's happening, and it's
Yeah.
creating challenges on both sides, especially with relationships. That's where
Yeah.
the relationships are breaking down because we can't fulfill as traders the roles that we used to in the past.
Yeah, well, the roles are changing. Like the roles for me as buyer and us as roasters are changing drastically. We have to be forward planning more. We need to know what we're going to need. Like
Yeah.
we were talking about it at conference in Melbourne the other week, and it was all about we have to be talking while cherries are still on the tree, and that's a massive different timeline for us as roasters. So there's a lot of changes. But this is why we have these therapy
Yeah.
sessions. Maybe this is more of a therapy session than a debate. We have these therapy sessions to learn what each of us could do better in our relationship
Yeah.
so we can have a stronger relationship. Maybe it's a
And
therapy session, actually.
if
All right.
if this discussion is triggering you, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And let me know. We'll soften it down. Shall I hit you with
No.
one now?
Yeah. Hit me.
All right. I sent you samples 3 weeks ago, and now you won't take my phone calls. You ghosted me. What's going on?
I'm just really busy, man. You were one of 12 traders who sent me samples. I haven't talked to any of you guys. Okay, so I have done this a lot in my career, and there is amount of traders who will be like, yeah, I know Caleb's done that to me because like the nature of it was, and this goes back into that old market dynamic and old supply dynamic and new supply dynamic.
Yeah.
Previously, I had the luxury as a roaster to request multiple samples from multiple suppliers, and the likelihood that I was going to have access to those coffees was still pretty high. The scarcity of product wasn't really there, so I could take my time. And the priority, I wasn't incentivized to move quicker, so it would fall down my job list. I've got to roast that coffee and get it out the door for that customer. I've got to redo that blend. We've got to test this new thing. We've got to do all these things. Their priorities are higher because if I don't do them, I lose business. Where before, if I didn't make a decision on green, there'd be someone else would have some. It'd be there. I wasn't incentivized financially to move quicker, so you guys fell to the bottom of the list. It's not a nice thing to say, but that is the truth of what
Okay.
happened.
Yeah. My emotional reaction to that. Are you expecting me to hold the coffee for you while I wait for you to get back to me? Because I can sell that coffee today. I'm racking up storage fees, holding that coffee, waiting for you to get back to me.
Totally.
At what point do I consider it rude that you haven't got back to me?
At 100%, and that's a relationship fundamental flaw. And I would say that the dynamic there is the ability for you to move that product right now because of scarcity of quality. You can move it so much quicker. Like the speed that you can move coffee at today compared to 5 years ago is totally different,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So these bad habits that we have as roasters, and I'll accept it. It's a bad habit, but I'll own that I definitely have done that and have definitely done that. I haven't done that for 2 years, and I haven't recommended anyone to delay on any sample for at least 2 years now because of what's shifted in the market. But yeah, it's one of those things that if you have the luxury, and I'm going to put this back onto myself as a roaster now, and this is how I think about samples now, like today, if you have the luxury of getting a sample of coffee, you need to cup and decide as quickly as possible, because the scarcity of those access who are going to have access to sample, like I'm
Mm.
I'm telling people right now, you have to get comfortable with buying coffees without tasting them.
Yeah, yeah,
So like we lost that luxury, but yes, we were bad at it. And we have been traditionally very bad at communicating
mm.
back to traders. But also, I still push back because that was back in the time where you guys would send me samples without asking. I would have traders sending me samples because they knew my address. They're sending me, I haven't even asked for these samples. So I got a pile high on my bench, not realizing I'm bad that
Yeah.
three of those sets I asked for. The other three sets I never asked for. Stop sending me samples I didn't
You don't
ask
need
for.
them. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Ah,
I'm guilty of that. But let me also preface that by saying, let me take some blame
yeah.
for that. For traders, if we've sent you samples, we've made the sometimes irrational assumption that you are buying.
Mm,
So, take that a step back for a second. I think we as traders, what we can do better is say, you know, stock is scarce right now. If I send you these samples, are you committing to buy? I'll
yeah.
hold the stock for you and send you the samples, but
Yeah.
I need to know in 7 days. After 7 days, I'm going to be free to sell that stock, and
Yeah.
that way, you're clear on what my position is, and I'm clear on what your position is. Are you really buying, or are you just kicking tires?
And I think it's
Forgive
also
me for saying it
important.
bluntly.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, man. But if I have that communication, then I know where the line is that I'm going to cross. Because if I
Yeah,
cross it, then I know that stock's not available, or there's a high chance it won't be available. The other thing that I would say, from my perspective, is you talk about like telling them how much is there, what'll be available. I think it comes down to that communication that has to happen there. Like as a roaster, I need to understand that like I should, if you're sending me samples without that context,
hmm,
I don't know that there's that urgency or that demand. But I also, if you want feedback, make it
yeah,
easier for me to give you feedback.
yeah,
So like how easy is it for me to communicate feedback to you? And if this probably leads back into my first one, if I give you feedback, how are you capturing it and how are you compoundly learning about me and my business to actually provide me better product in the future? Because if I give you feedback, I want to know that the next time I'm going to get more targeted results because you're learning from that feedback. If I'm in a scenario where I give a trader feedback and I feel like the next time I feel like they've still missed the mark again, I'm like,
hmm,
well, I'm not going to give you feedback because it doesn't help. If I give you
yeah,
feedback
yeah.
and I see results that is actually helping us calibrate and get more aligned, I'll give you feedback all day. But if I don't, I'm not incentivized to give feedback because it doesn't help me get a better result.
Yeah, exactly, and that's 100% fair criticism. If your trader isn't learning about you and investing subsequently in the relationship, because that's what it is,
Mm.
then look, it's probably time to start looking at other traders and spreading your resources around a little bit.
Same thing. If your roaster isn't getting back to you and your roaster's not communicating properly to you, they are not a customer. They are a liability. They are someone who is wasting your time. So like it goes both ways 100% that we have to like there has to be a level of respect in this from both parties to actually move forward because roasters we
Yeah,
can't expect to just sit around and go, well, we're going to go find a new supplier now.
yeah. So let me ask you a question. If
Yeah.
I'm about to send you a sample, me, Ray, ICT, I'm about to send Caleb a sample of coffee, and
Yep.
if I ask you the question, Caleb, I'm going to send you this coffee, and the stock will be available for 7 days. Afterwards, I need you to, have no expectations that the coffee will still be there. Can
Yep.
I expect an answer in 7 days? If I ask you that question, am I overstepping any boundaries?
So to me personally, no, not in the current market. If you asked me that 5 years ago, I'd go, geez, Ray's being pushy. Like literally, if that was 5 years ago, I'd be like, hold on, no one's asking me those questions. But if you ask me that today, because of the lived experience that I've had over the last 18 months, 24 months of knowing and talking to so many roasters that don't know that that is the scenario and then they miss out, yes, please tell me that. The more information I have is the better. for me as a roaster.
Yeah.
It is hard because sometimes it's hard truths. So like if I was a roaster who hasn't had an experience of missing out on something or falling short or overpaying because I didn't book at the right time, then I would feel that that might be a bit pushy. As soon as I've had that lived experience of going, whoa, I would actually see that as cool. They're being transparent with me. They're being honest with me. Let's see, like, let's go. So I think it's a balance, but I think the biggest thing I've noticed from roasters is until you have that lived experience of missing out on something or realizing that you're not going to get what you need in time and you're having to actually adjust your quality or adjust your origin and things like that, that's when you feel the pain. But no, I will never have a problem with over communication. Tell me more, but tell me things that are relevant to me buying. Don't tell me more about random other things that might be. Tell me what about this coffee, when you need to know, when it's going to be here, all the details around that, I think
Yeah.
is super important. Yeah.
I sometimes see it as like a husband and wife relationship, and we're fighting all the time.
Yeah.
But you said this, and I said this, and you said this, and 3
You
years
told
ago
me to
you
take
said
the
that.
bins out, and I
Yeah.
took the bins out. Yeah, but you did it 3 days later.
Exactly.
That might be
So we've
too
got
much
to
of a
work.
window into my life.
All right, your turn. Hit me.
All right. Where do I want to go? Oh, I've kind of gone on a rant, and I actually combined a couple there. Okay, here we go. So, biggest pet peeve is inconsistent and unclear contract communication. I'm trying to book a contract of coffee with someone and I'm not getting the detail I need, or I commit to it and we get a volume and a price, but then it's a bit murky on like timeline of when's it going to be here or any
Yeah.
updates. Okay, no, you said it was going to be here in March, and now March has come around. I'm like, hey, can I get something? Oh no, I got delayed by 3 months or a month. And I'm like, well, when were you going to tell me? So it's that unclear communication around booking contracts and then also the management of contracts. So
Yes.
obviously, all things above board, everyone knows that we run a software called Green Square that helps you manage your contracts. Literally built it because of this problem that absolutely killed me until we had a software that could give us manage and visibility. I was back in the day, I'm working for roasters where I'm managing their green coffee and I'm calling up traders being like, hey, we've got contract, da, 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 da. How much is left? And they go, oh, there's this much. And I'm like, cool. So when's the next installment arriving? And they go, oh, it should be here maybe then. I'm like, okay, well, let me know if anything changes. We get there later and they go, oh yeah, it got delayed again. And we understand delays happen, but we cannot accept not being informed in a timely manner about them. And it happens way too often that we depend on you guys to manage those things for us, and we get caught out because of it.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Okay, so yeah, criticism noted. My emotional reaction to that, if I were to react emotionally, would be: do you think you're the only customer that we're handling?
No, not
We
at
are
all.
handling many containers of coffee, many shipments all the time, and often tracking and tracing each one isn't something that happens at that really minuscule detail. That's not an excuse. If you require that, that needs to be communicated from the beginning. So, this is a question that this is a question that I'm asking all the time now, and I'm saying to a lot of my clients, what level of communication do you need? How often do you want updates on this? Because I've been in your position. I've been a roaster buying 40 tons of coffee a week for the production that I used to run, and timing, and I had the same frustration when I was a roaster. So I've learned as a trader what the frustration is, and that's what we're offering to our clients to exactly mitigate that, because I understand the frustration. But something that I think we can all do better as traders is go, what communication do you need? How often do you want updates? And then we should stick by it, because it kills the trust if we don't do it.
I think I understand that there's like, we're one of many in your catalog of customers as traders that you're managing. But if I book a contract that I say I want to start drawing down in March, and something between then changes that I'm not going to be able to start drawing down in March, the minimum expectation I have as a roaster is that I'm aware of that. And we have, and I think that comes with a sense of fear. And traditionally, things could get moved around because there was an oversupply. So those things weren't there. So traders didn't have to have those, and like importers didn't have to have those conversations very often. But now I think there's a fear that they go, but what? Well, hang on. What if we don't tell them? Maybe they won't need it straight away. Like, be honest. Like, go, yep, it got
Yeah.
stuck at port. We all know the Australian ports suck in
Mm.
terms of like actually clearing and moving stuff in time,
Yeah.
and like those delays just open up. They don't suck. The guys are working really hard. The ladies out there are working really hard. It's just a very busy and like high chance that things get delayed there. So my biggest thing is that in terms of communication, I don't want you to over service me with every week. It's in this port now and it's in this port now and it's moved, 200 Ks off
You just want
the
to know, is
sea.
it on time or not on time?
100%. Is it on time or not on time? And that's in terms of the delivery. The other
Yeah.
side is the management of my contracts
Yeah.
is, and this is where I've changed my opinion. It's not your fault anymore. It is not your job to manage how much I have left on the contract as a roaster. It is my job. It is my job to know that. I used to complain to traders, and now I've created a software because I'm like, I need to do it myself. It is my largest cost center as a coffee roaster that I need
Yeah.
to know how much is left on my contract. Am I drawing down quicker than I expected? Because last year I said I need 10 ton for 12 months,
Mm.
but I'm 6 months in and I've already taken, 8 ton.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to be aware of those things. So that's where I land on it, but it is definitely something that's been a pet peeve.
Yeah, I think the responsibility goes both ways. But I think it's 70% of the trader's responsibility. But I think 30% of the responsibility stays with the roaster. That if you haven't heard from me for 3 months and your coffee is due in next month, you should reach out and say, "Hey, I need an update on this."
Mm.
I think that's where the level of responsibility of the roaster ends. That you should request an update every once in a while.
Yeah. So we're going to not agree, and this is good. It's glad that we don't agree. I'm very grateful because we have a very strong. I think we have a strong understanding that we can
Yeah.
disagree, and this is a
Yeah.
perfect place for it. I would say everything before it arrives, in my opinion, that is up to the trader to tell me if it's not going to arrive on time. If I've
Yeah.
I've signed a contract with you to say that it's going to be available on this time at this thing, it is,
Yeah.
in my opinion, you should tell me that that is going to change
Mhm.
because like that's in my mind, that's how I perceive it. Once
Yeah.
it's landed and I'm drawing it down, it is 100% on me as a roaster to know how much I'm using and if I'm using it too quickly or too slowly. And it's my job to tell you that I'm going to need more, not your
Mhm.
job to guess that. So that's
Yeah.
where I think the lines draw that before it lands, you need to be able to trust that your trader is going to communicate that to you
Mm.
about that. And once it's land, your trader has to trust that you are up to date with everything and you're
Yeah.
tracking your own drawdown because
Mm.
they can't track every single order from all these people and know if that's more than you needed, less. They don't know if you've dropped it out of one of your major blends and you're only using it somewhere else. They don't know if you've just won an extra 1,000 kilos a week and you're now consuming it quicker. That is your
Mhm.
job as a roaster. That's how I would say. But
Well, that leads me on to my next peeve, which
yeah, get
is
me, get
which
me.
is which is immediately what happens when that coffee arrives. The coffee that you've contracted, I've
Yep.
done my job. If you said it's 100% my responsibility, I've done my job as best I can. I landed the coffee here on time,
Thank you.
and then it sits in my warehouse for 6 months before you touch it.
Yeah. Is that so? That's the pet peeve when we don't draw down in timelines that we should.
Yes.
100%. And I'll accept that totally because of where I drew the lines on the last one. Your
Yeah.
job's to get it here, my job's to consume it. If I'm consuming it too slowly, I should tell you. And that should be made aware. And we have to understand that moves the dial. So I wholeheartedly accept that. I think what was happening previously is roasters haven't been trained to manage their green coffee contracts and their drawdown because the like the like repercussions of not doing it
Mm.
well weren't that bad. Like if I ran long on a contract, it didn't really matter previously. Now it matters a lot. And that's because of cost of storage. And you could list all the things that have increased that every
Yeah.
day that you hold a
Yeah.
product is there. But I wholeheartedly I'll take that on the chin. If you're not communicating the drawdown schedule, it's all about roasters. We have to take accountability of our product.
Mm.
We've committed to a contract, which is good,
Yeah.
which gets us guaranteed pricing, but we have to communicate our drawdowns. And if we're not tracking them properly, then we're potentially going to get hit with things, something that an Australian roaster hasn't heard of, which I think, and you don't have to comment on this, but I think will become a thing in the future, In North America, they have carry charges. So if you store a coffee
Yeah.
for too
Yeah.
long outside of your contract period, there is an increase on a in USD, it's USD per pound for every month or week, or there's different periods
Yeah. Yeah.
of a additional carry charge for it to sit in that warehouse. We do not have that in Australia traditionally, but if we keep treating it like this, that is going to naturally have to happen because we can't
Mm.
expect a trade house to, I'm not the trader side. I got to defend roasters, but I'll come back to it. But we cannot expect a trader to hold that position longer and to actually hold that cost for
Yeah.
longer. So we have to be very concerned that if we don't act properly, we're going to create an environment where the market's going to need to start putting carry charges on for every week it's in there when we aren't drawing down correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think most traders actually will have it in their contracts and in their fine print. It's
Totally.
there. It's just not often enforced.
Exactly.
But I think you'll see it enforced a lot more now.
Exactly. I've definitely seen it. It's definitely in there, but in Australia, traditionally, we haven't enforced, I haven't seen it enforced. Like over my,
Yeah. Yeah.
like 12, 15 years buying coffee, I've very rarely seen it enforced. I saw it once. I got it presented to me just at the start of COVID from a supplier, which was 100% valid. And I really appreciated the way they presented it to me because my business at the time, communal roastery, volumes dropped drastically overnight. And I had like half a container that was landing.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm going to draw that down about 4 times slower than I expected. I communicated to them. They communicated to me. Cool. Well, if you do that, like from this date on, we're going to have to charge you more. And then they said to me, they were like, cool, we know some other people who might be looking to use this coffee. Are you happy for us to go talk to them about taking some of your volume? And they did. And I spoke to a couple of roasters I knew and we dropped my volume. But they told me that if we didn't drop it by this date, you were going to have to pay an additional fee. Fine, but you put a fee in front of me, and I'm like, watch me go move this. I got that coffee out there. I found some other people. I was like, guys, this is a great Brazil. Come get some. But yeah, I think carry is there, and I think that's something that we need to be aware of. So 100%, that's on us as roasters. We got to take it, and we got to be able to handle the actual drawdown and the communication of drawdown as well.
Yeah, exactly. The reason why that's going to be a problem is, for us as traders, we're paying for that coffee when it leaves. We've got it under financed for a long time. We're paying for storage. We're tying up the coffee with cash. The longer it sits there, the longer we've got cash just tied up. And now with the prices being so high, a lot of banks and financial institutions are getting nervous. They're like, man, the cost of your portfolio is triple.
Yeah.
We're not going to move your limits up for how much you can finance. So, it puts a lot of strain on our financial system to keep coffee just held in stock. We have to turn it into cash so that we can repay our financial institutions so we can buy more coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cash flow. It's all cash flow for sure. It's the same way that if a cafe just kept or wasn't paying its bills and they were just building up debt for you as a roaster, like you're carrying that cost. You're still giving out the goods, or you're kind of stuck in that position. Oh, is it my go or did I just go?
I think it's my go.
Okay, sorry. I already had another one. Oh wait.
No, it's your go. It's your go because I just asked you if about not taking your drawdown in time.
Yes,
so yeah, it's your turn. Your turn.
Okay, so I think this is my last one because I've actually combined 2 already.
Yeah, and I've got one more.
Got ahead of myself. So my last one would be payment terms. So
all right, I'm going to leave the conversation at this point.
I'm conditioning it right now because I talk about payment terms a lot, but the biggest frustration that I have is not understanding the payment terms available to me or the payment terms that are actually in place for my contracts. So there is scenarios that if payment terms are changed, being aware that payment terms are going to change, or that they're like the timeline they're going to change, or like what payment terms do I have on this coffee, or is it different on this one? Like not understanding the payment terms that I have and the requirement of those is a very big pain point for roasters because I need to know so if I'm negotiating a contract with 2 different suppliers and then I get to the end and I'm like, awesome, we go through to sign the contract. I'm like, hey, that says 14 days. I needed 30. And then I've got to go back and start again. So it's this not actually really being super transparent and upfront and highlighting the fact that payment terms might have changed during a negotiation can really hurt a roaster at the moment, and can always hurt a roaster. So that's a big pain point for me, because I've seen it happen a few times where you're in a negotiation and you start at the top and you're like, I need this, and I want 30 days. And we go through the process with a few different suppliers. Then one comes out, good product, good price, happy to move ahead. And then I find out they're like, oh yeah, it's on 7 days. And I'm like, hang on, I wouldn't have accepted this. I wouldn't have, like, we didn't know that at the time. So the variation on payment terms is pretty hard.
Okay, cool. I'm going to respond to that by not responding to that, because that was exactly going to be my follow-up question is, as a trader, we're going to offer you a whole bunch of things. We're going to help you out when you need help. We're going to pull you out in an emergency. We're going to send you samples whenever you request it. We're going to do all of this. The least you can do is pay us on time. So
100%.
it's kind of related.
Yeah.
But what I want to do now is just respond to what you said. What goes into payment terms? We as traders probably have dropped the ball on this and not been clear enough on what goes into offering you payment terms and how we can structure that. So, for example, you can get a better price if you pay COD, because we don't have to finance the coffee and store it for an extra 30 days or 60 days or whatever it is. There's different payment arrangements that result in a different price offer. So you've already touched on that. You see a really good price, but it's on 7 days. What happens in the back end? We go to our insurance companies, we go to our credit companies, and we have to look into that, look into the transaction and go, Caleb's asked for 30 days. Are we legitimately going to be able to give him 30 days based on credit rating?
Yep.
And based on risk. So, for example, if your credit rating doesn't withhold a 30-day application and $30,000 of credit limit, it's like a credit card, right? You have to apply for it. And they say, oh, well, you applied for $50,000 of credit. We're only going to give you 10 because of your credit rating and your risk, your risk
threshold.
rating. So we actually cannot get insurance on the transaction if we offer you 30 days when your credit rating only justifies 14, for instance. So there's that whole risk side of things that we're assessing. What we probably need to do better as traders is communicate that to you and go, you've asked for 30 days. We can only offer you 14 because of this, and this. And start the discussion there.
I think that's 100% valid. And I think it's important for us to understand that during the negotiation process. So if we start the negotiation, I say I need 30 days, you go, awesome. In principle, this is what it would be if you meet the 30-day requirements that are X, Y, and Z. Instead of going, well, I know we can get you 14 days without checking, so we're going to keep negotiating. Because sometimes I feel like it comes up too late that we didn't get them, or like things like that. From my perspective, I understand it's a risk, it's a liability. This is where I'm preaching to, and this is what I'm shouting from the rooftop to any roaster who's listening right now. If you have payment terms with the supplier, do not break them. Do not break them. Like if you're going to break them, communicate and say, oh guys, this has happened. I'm going to do this with this. Like talk to them about what's happening if you're going to be slightly late or how it changes. Because it is extremely costly at the moment to do that. But my challenge as a roaster is, if I'm asking for it, tell me yes or no. Like tell me from the start if you can't give me 30 days, because that's okay. If I've asked, some of the bigger companies are still out there asking for 60s and 90s. And if that's not on the table, tell me up front. And that is on us as roasters to ensure that all the parties we're talking to are being honest with us. And I think it's more important that you're honest straight away and go, hey, for your company, I think it's going to be pretty challenging to get 60 days, Caleb. We're going to probably be more sitting around the 14 days. But if we go through these hoops, we can actually look at a 21 or a 30-day. But we need these things to happen as well. So we could coherently be running that while we're negotiating or while we're having our conversation. But it needs to be part of the conversation, not getting all the way to the end and going, well, I knew you wouldn't meet the 30 days, so this has all been priced at 14 or whatever it was. I think it's just an important understanding. But the reality is, I get it. Roasters understand it, whether we like it or not. We understand that, you're financing our product. you're having to actually play that role, and that comes at a cost. It's like anything. If we didn't have to finance it, it would be cheaper. If you can pay for your coffee upfront today, it would be cheaper.
The reality of the situation is us as traders are actually taking a risk on both ends, because we're financing the coffee here before the coffee's even arrived, and then we're giving it to you as a roaster, and we still haven't got paid this entire time. 30, 40, 50 days before the coffee arrives, we paid for it. We're holding it. We're selling it to you. And then, when do we get paid? And often as traders, we're working off very thin margins. We're talking 2, 3, 5% sometimes at best. I again, an emotional reaction here as a trader. I don't want you to think we're cheating you.
Yeah.
We're not out to get you, roasters. We're here to work with you. We're here, if you're not a good customer, then we don't have a client. If we don't do the right thing, then we lose customers. And so it's not a good way to run a business. But we're running off very thin margins. Cash flow is everything. So, like you said, we need to have the discussions when things are not going to plan. It's okay. There are ways around that. We have finance teams that can go, okay, you're tight for cash flow. You're supposed to be paying this amount. Let's put it on a repayment plan. This is what it would look like that would actually make sense for you, and we'll get that paid off.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we're not going to cut off your supply, but we're going to put some rules in place that are better for management, because obviously you're struggling with something yourself. Let's put in the right thing that works for you and works for us.
And I think, to be honest, like that is what I'm hearing from like some of the like yourselves and like well-structured trading partners are actually, they're there to help your roasters. Like they don't want a roaster to go out of business because, one, you'll have a bill racked up with them, but two, they also want you to stay and actually get through this. But then if we look at this is something that as a roaster that I'll take ownership of, and as I'm somehow speaking on behalf of roasters, I'm really excited. Roasters, DM me if you think I've misrepresented you in this. Like, tell me, because let's do a round two. Like, or if we have another representative,
likewise,
let's go
with traders. Tell me if I've got anything wrong here.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm grateful to have you around, because we're just open to starting the conversation and having it out here for everyone. But roasters need to work out that just as the same that we're giving payment terms to our wholesale cafes, if those wholesale cafes don't pay, that's because we haven't communicated to them and put these structures in place that is going to affect our ability to buy green coffee. So we need to be really regimented on our payment and our cash flow as businesses. Right now, for a roaster, it's critical that we're buying coffee and we're paying like our bills and keeping things moving, but it's critical that we're actually not getting caught out by cafes that aren't financially stable and aren't able to pay you. If a cafe wants to push you down on price or isn't willing to accept the price increase that you're offering as a roaster, that is the first red flag that they are not a customer, they are a liability, and they are a risk to running up a debt with you. So if you have a concern that if I put my prices up, what if they leave me? Then you have a risky customer base, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's the exact same. If Rayhan was like, oh, but if I put my prices up, my roasters would leave me, that is a sign that there is a risky customer base that you're taking risk on. So roasters, my little kind of summary of this is, you got to remember, like, we have all these pet peeves. We got to work better on communication. Traders, I would say, hopefully have to work better on their transparency and communication around like timelines, around product availability, around like drawdowns and access to the product that we have committed to, as well as, is this in the payment terms we require? We have to give more structured detail in that timeline required to get those options. We can't ask for this bullseye shot and then not get back to you about it, or not actually do it at the right time as well. So I think it's a two-sided game that we're building a stronger relationship together. Anyone who thinks different, comment below. Tell us that we're all wrong. But I honestly believe it comes down to communication. We need to build stronger relationships with our suppliers right now to be able to get through this. And as roasters, we need to back ourselves of increasing our prices on wholesale, on retail, and actually really holding hard on that and finding that value. Because every day we don't put our price up, we're subsidizing businesses, and we're subsidizing risky cafes and risky operators that are buying off you unsustainably. That's it. Like, I don't know how else to say it. I got a bit on a rant. I apologize.
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I've really loved this discussion. I think it's been I think it's been great to hear your perspective on things which, it's an emotional discussion. And I
Yeah,
don't think it's the end of it. I think there's half a dozen other peeves out there that people will raise, and I'd love to hear them because that helps us get better. It helps us
totally.
put the right systems in place. And, now's the time to do it. Now, where
100%.
everything is in turmoil, now is the time to put in the systems that are going to pay off 5 years and 10 years from now. Because I don't want to go anywhere. I still want to be in coffee 20 years from now. I still want to be doing what I'm doing, and I want to be better for it. So I think this
100%.
is how we're going to get there.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I love it. I appreciate you taking the brunt of it and taking my intensity. So I do appreciate it. I think it's a really nice format that we've been able to open up for people to hear this conversation and to hopefully spark more as well. The one thing that I would say there as well is this is the time where we actually learn as roasters and as stakeholders in the coffee supply chain. This is the part where we learn how to build sustainable businesses that can pay high prices for green coffee, because the sustainability of us paying sub $2 USD per pound was not good for operators in
Yeah.
our supply chain. We need to learn how to be good business operators. The last evolution of it, or whatever wave we want to call it, for a roaster's perspective, we had the wave of roaster engineering of like, how can we roast better? We can build better curves. We can really get into that. We now need to know how to build businesses that can actually sustain and effectively buy and sell coffee at a sustainable way. And that's how that comes from communication, that comes from management, that comes from investing time in managing and having that visibility. So it's a challenge, but we're all in it together and we all want to see each other succeed as well. So before we wrap it up, I'm doing going to chuck some links in. Rayhan and the team up at Coffee Commune are hosting a Roasters conference. Do you want to give everyone a little intro to that? And I'll make sure we pop all the links in. Super
Yep.
excited for that one.
Sunday, 18th of May. We've picked a Sunday because it means that roasteries are generally closed and you can get there.
Yeah.
Sunday, 18th, and then the following day, Monday, the 19th, is our Accelerator Expo. So we've got actually two events on 2 days. The Roasters Conference is all about roasters, focused roaster information. We've got Sergio from Jack Marat Coffee coming out. He's going to talk about innovations in Australian coffee growing. And Cooper's coming out to talk about best practices in roasting and roasting standards. We're going to have a green panel discussion with yourself, Caleb, to talk about coffee buying strategies. That's just a snapshot. We've got about
Mm.
half a dozen speakers coming out, and it's all focused on stuff that roasters need to know. That's current. There's networking available. Chefs putting on a 2-course lunch.
Mm.
If we're going to put on a really great lunch for everyone, and the value of it is, the ticket prices that we're charging is only really to cover the cost. So I'd encourage everyone, please come to the conference. We're going to make it worth your while. It's in Brisbane. It's a chance to come and play in the sunshine. I hope to see you all there.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great, mate. I'm really excited to see these educational and these like community-based events coming up. We saw it with the one we had in Melbourne with Roast Summit, which was obviously a little bit different, but that was basically just sold out. And then the amount of people I had contacting me being like, oh man, I wish I could get to that is why these education events are really where we upskill ourselves in the industry at the moment as well. So it's awesome to see them getting put on, and I'm really excited to be involved and to see everyone down there at the event. So thank you so much for your time, Rayhan. Everyone, if you're still following along, be sure to share, be sure to comment, be sure to let us know if there's something we missed or if you have a different perspective on any of these pet peeves and relationship killers between roasters and traders. Happy roasting, team, and we'll talk to you all soon.